In a world cloaked in shadows where the line between reality and myth blurs, four intrepid adventurers stand at the precipice of destiny. Welcome to the realm of the Red Sphere Guild.
Welcome to the channel and welcome to the journey of the Guild of the Red Sphere. This is session 0, so I'll cover the wider idea behind the campaign, some of the things we'll do slightly differently to most people, and we'll sort of talk about where the campaign will take us as well. So first things first, the campaign is 4 Against Darkness. It has 1-page Mythic as well that I use to essentially combine together the different adventures that we physically go on. There is a specific video that I've just published, which will be in the link below, just in case you want to know. However, essentially every adventure they go on will be combined through the use of Mythic, and there are about 55 different delves, or I should probably say adventures. The reason why it's adventures is that some of them aren't delves, they're sort of overland, and as a result there'll be 55 across this whole campaign. Now there is a flick through if you just want to see all the pretty pictures as such. We'll sort of talk about the actual campaign in the different sessions that I'm going to do, because 55 is just so huge. I'm going to break it into 5 to 6 different smaller sessions. Essentially this will give you sort of 12 different adventures in every single episode. Just allows us to move the story through a bit better, and break up the whole campaign into sort of favourable chunks as such. The first thing to say, I guess, is that a lot of 4 Against Darkness campaigns are written in a way that essentially says, this is how many bosses, this is how many minions, this is the level that we do have. Now, I do have a record of that, I'll show that on the screen just now, but essentially this book is not that. So instead, this book is done slightly differently to how a lot of other people would do it. I've written this as if I was one of the characters. There's actually a specific named character that is doing the writing. There is one specific passage just there by a different character, Volar, but the vast majority of this is all written by one individual person, and it's their take upon what's happening in the adventure, as opposed to the physical manifestations of this is how many bosses, this is how many minions, etc. So things are going to be done slightly differently from that point of view, but it also means that it's a nicer story, as opposed to it just being sort of factual based. In addition to that, this essentially is written for a purpose as well. So as we go through the book, you'll start finding out specifically why that is, but also as you get towards the end, we'll find out more information about the adventurers themselves, and then why they've chosen to write this passage. It's more of a case of help as such for future people learning how to solve the situation that they're in, I'll probably say. I don't want to go into too much detail in session 0, but let's just say they haven't fixed everything. All they've done is solved the immediate problem. As for characters, it's driven by 4 main characters. Now I say main characters because whilst there are 4 characters that we follow on a regular basis, this being Urthor, Volar, Ashwin and Yuki, there are other characters that come in. These are essentially a bit of sort of patrons, they're 5th characters. Occasionally we do swap out one of the main characters for one of the other characters in case of certain situations, which I'll get into. But essentially it is a 4-person campaign with a few other people that are dropping in. We do have a dwarf. He is, let's just say, one of a basic idea of a dwarf. This is very dwarf eccentric. They like their gems, they really want to collect stuff. They want to sort of yearn to get back into the abandoned dwarven cities and mine some more gems, just like dwarves long ago. And that's actually probably worth mentioning actually something else. So unlike the standard campaigns, which, if you didn't know, 4 Against Darkness is based in a place called Nordenau, I believe I'm saying that right, this is not. The reason being is I wanted it to essentially be organic, and the Mythic GM book will essentially allow you to build your own adventure, but that also means that some people don't like other people, and why don't they like other people, and as a result you have to kind of build up your own storyline. It also meant that I could make an entire map that is essentially custom to this specific campaign based upon what I pull out from Mythic GM, and as a result it's not in Nordinel in any way. This does then add in some relationship issues. For example, talking about dwarves specifically, dwarves and elves do not get on. Elves do not like dwarves more than dwarves do not like elves. However, there are a few other relationships in there as well that we can get onto as time goes on too. Vola, as I said, she has one passage in here, but she's a cleric, a standard cleric as such. She is specifically of the Guild of Thugas, so that's the Flame Guild if you didn't know. She pushes this, and this is a story beat throughout the whole thing specifically. There is Ashwin, he's a Spearfighter. That's a particularly interesting character that I really wanted to try out as opposed to some of the others that I've dealt with recently. However, he is essentially come from the desert plains, and then there's Yuki The Marksman, and they specifically have a trait of diary, which of course is a real trait, but that also means they're the one writing this diary, which is quite interesting, so there's a nice reflection back into it. Now, everything else I'm going to try and add in from a story point of view as we go through this on a session by session basis. Obviously, session 1 is going to be the main story in which we're able to really understand what's going on, but there will be some unanswered questions. That's really important for the campaign. There are passages such as this. This is, if you wished, you could convert this to actual words. This is essentially just a replacement of the alphabet, and because they see things like this through the world and they start learning more things, they start adapting to what they do and how they go about things, and they learn more about what happens physically around them on a day-to-day basis, and so it's quite important for them to not know. So it's also important for me to not know as well as they go through this. Finally, as for some logistics, when we go through the different sessions, I will be essentially giving a story-based approach. I won't be reading word for word. I can if you really want, but there is a lot in here. As a result, we're going to flesh out some of this with some music that you should be able to hear in the background, but then also I'm going to put some AI on it as well. Some AI artwork, just in order to really make sure that you can understand what's going on and have a feel of the campaign and see the thing that I was seeing, I guess. And essentially, that is everything. So, session 1 will be in a couple of days, I think probably 2 days. I'll go through absolutely everything, and then I'll mention on every single page as well, physically where I got that idea from and what adventure or campaign that physically is built upon. So if you want, you can do it yourself as well. It should just be about 15 to 20 minutes long each session, and hopefully it will be a good little time waster as such. In which case, I will appreciate seeing you next session. Bye.